Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm here to break down the NFL running backs for Draftkings main slate week 8. Can't believe we're already in week 8. Got a lot of breakdown with the running backs. A lot of really good running backs, especially high-priced running backs this week. It's going to be a fun week. We're going to talk about a little bit of strategy on this video as well. Before I do all that, if you're new here, make sure to leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, turn notification bell. All this stuff really helps me out. It takes like 2 seconds of your time, and it's free. Trying to get to 400 subscribers by Thanksgiving this year, so already we're starting to get a little bit of traction. Gotten some pretty solid subscribers in the past day because of the Thursday Night Football video. So if you're new from there, thank you guys so much for joining. I'm really grateful that you guys are here. If you want to get more of my content, you can always subscribe to my Patreon. I'll put the link in the description below. But let's get into all the plays. We're going to start out with Myles Gaskin, who's only $5,200, which is just way too cheap in my opinion. Myles Gaskin, I mean, yeah, it's the Rams. They're a tough rushing defense. It's not going to look great, and they're not favored in this game. The Rams allowed only 20 bonus points to running backs, but Myles Gaskin's averaging 4.1 yards per carry, which is pretty solid, and he's getting 22 red zone carries, and ever since Jordan Howard's gotten pretty much benched, he's getting all the inside of 5 carries. Really not getting any looks in the end zone for targets, and he's averaging 0.78 points per touch. When we go look at rushing attempts, he's averaging 13.66 per game and 4.83 targets per game, averaging 18.5 touches per game. So he's getting the usage. The Rams, yeah, I mean, it's a tougher matchup, but I'm really not too worried about it. He's just getting the usage. The usage is what's important to me, and at only 5,200, he looks like a really good cash play for me if you need to go cheaper at running back, which I don't think you have to this week, but if you want to, I think Myles Gaskin's probably your best bet below 6K for a cash running back as of right now, unless we're going to talk about Mixon getting out, other guys can get rolled out, which can change all of that, obviously, but for now, that's how I would look at Gaskin. Up next, we're going to go with Giovanni Bernard and Joe Mixon combined, because Joe Mixon right now is currently questionable, and I don't really think he's going to play personally. I just don't think it would make sense for someone who's coming off an injured week. They're going into a bye next week. It just doesn't really make a lot of sense for them to actually play him. But we got to talk about him anyway. This is the highest total game on the slate. They're not favored, but I don't think that matters. Joe Mixon's kind of looks like he's become a game script independent running back. The Titans have allowed the 11th most points to opposing running backs this year. We're seeing Joe Mixon average 3.6 yards per carry and Bernard averaging 3.24. Mixon's got 18 red zone carries and he's missed a game, so he's still pretty up there with a lot of those other guys. He's getting 5 inside to 5 carries, 1 end zone target on the year. We're seeing him average 19.83 attempts per game, along with 4.33 targets per game, which brings him to 24.16 touches per game, which is the most in the entire league right now. Giovanni Bernard last week had 18 touches, so and especially if they get behind this game, he'll definitely get more usage in the passing game because Giovanni Bernard does get usage there. So this just really all comes down to if Mixon plays or not. If Mixon plays, obviously Bernard's just, you don't want to play him, and I think Mixon ends up becoming a really good play at only 6,300 on DraftKings. And Giovanni Bernard only 5,800, I think is also a pretty solid play if Mixon is out. So that's just, an if-then statement. Be sure to pay attention to that if you want Joe Mixon, or if what happens with that. Be sure to pay attention to injury news. We'll probably know on Friday if he's really going to play or not. Honestly, I think it's important if he practices Wednesday and Thursday for Mixon if Bernard's really going to play. So be sure to pay attention to all of that. Kareem Hunt's up next. He's 6,900 on DraftKings, and I think his price could come up a little bit after this week. Look at a positive matchup for Kareem Hunt. This game is a 53.5 game total, and the Browns are favored. The Las Vegas Raiders have allowed the 3rd most points to opposing running backs this year. Kareem Hunt's averaging 4.58 yards per carry, and he's averaging 23 here, or not averaging. He has 23 red zone carries on the year and 5 inside to 5 carries, and he's even getting a little bit of usage in the passing game in the end zone with 2 end zone targets, averaging almost a point per touch. That's pretty productive. That's really productive. When we go look at his usage, ever since Nick Chubb's been out, he's averaging 15.5 carries per game and 2.75 targets per game to 18.25 targets per game. But I think this could end up becoming sort of a situation like in New Orleans with Alvin Kamara and Michael Thomas. I don't think it's going to be as drastic, but a little bit similar of a situation because now Odell Beckham's out for the year, and this could go one of 2 ways. That's their number one. Obviously, that's their number 1 pass catcher on the team. I mean, he's the best one on the team, obviously. But the Browns, and especially Kevin Stefanski's system, is a running system. They want to run the ball. So now if your number 1 pass catcher out, they could do one of 2 things. They could just push the ball on the ground even more, which means more attempts for Kareem Hunt, or they're going to do what happened in New Orleans, where now with Michael Thomas being out, Alvin Kamara is picking up a lot of usage in the passing game, and I could see that happening with Kareem Hunt, because Kareem Hunt, over the course of his career, has been a very good pass catcher. I mean, he's seen a few games of 4 targets, including last game when Odell went out. So I think in a game that, I mean, should shoot out, he could definitely see some more usage in the passing game for sure. And I wouldn't even be surprised to see his price, start becoming in the 7K range, which we want to get on Kareem Hunt before that happens. So I think Kareem Hunt's a great play this week. He's going to be popular, but I don't really see reason to get off of him, just in a great matchup in a great spot. Jonathan Taylor is definitely someone who I think could go a little overlooked this week. He's 6,600 on DraftKings, but overall this is a positive offensive versus defensive spot. The total in this game is 50, which isn't, in the 55s and the 53s, but still a pretty high total game, and they are favored. And the Detroit Lions have allowed the fourth most points to opposing running backs so far this year, so Jonathan Taylor is definitely is in a great spot. Averaging 4.1 yards per carry right now, 18 red zone carries, and 6 inside of 5 carries so far this year, so he's getting usage everywhere. When we go look at the usage, he's averaging 16 carries per game and 2.2 targets per game, 18.2 touches per game. So Jonathan Taylor, the whole narrative of him is like, everyone thought he was going to be this ultimate bell cow, and now with Marlon Mack out, and he's still not a full bell cow, but he's still getting 18 touches per game. Like, that's elite usage. I mean, it's not elite usage. Elite usage is Derrick Henry and Joe Mixon. It's still very good usage, and in a great matchup, this could be the spot where he really takes off. And they're coming off the bye. Like, you never know. Like, they could, off the bye, decide to make Jonathan Taylor the main guy on the backfield. We've kind of seen that slowly happening with DeAndre Swift in Detroit off the bye. So, this could really be the week Jonathan Taylor really starts to take over. So, definitely a spot I like. I definitely want to attack that. Derrick Henry's up next. I mean, he's the most expensive. No, he's 8,000. Second most expensive running back on the slate behind Kamara. Almost said McCaffrey. Gosh. He's got a positive offensive versus defensive spot. The line of this game is set at 55 right now, and the Tennessee Titans are favored. Bengals have allowed the 14th most points to opposing running backs so far this year. So yeah, Derrick Henry, I mean, in the highest total game as a favorite, and that's just something you love to see. I mean, Derrick Henry is just ridiculous. He's averaging 4.64 yards per carry, 37 red zone carries, and 11 inside to 5 carries. Leads the league in both of those. He's just been absolutely insane, averaging 0.8 points per touch so far this year, averaging 23.83 carries per game and 2.83 targets per game, which is more than we've ever seen from him, averaging 26.66 touches per game, which is the most in the entire NFL right now. So Derrick Henry, usage monster as of right now. And in a game, in the highest total game where they're favored in a good matchup, I mean, it just screams Derrick Henry smash week. Another player that's going to be really chalky, but I think it's really hard to just get off him this week. I mean, this could be another one of those 40-point explosions from him, and I don't think anyone would be that surprised. I'm expecting a big game from him, so definitely someone I want to have a bunch of attention on, have some good exposures to, is Derrick Henry. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is an interesting one. Now that Le'Veon Bell's here, I mean, we'll talk about the usage, but they are playing the Kansas City Chiefs. They're massive favorites, I think 20-point favorites right now over the New York Jets. 48.5 game total. The Jets have allowed the 9th most points to opposing running backs. When we go look at his usage, I mean, he's averaging 4.79 yards per carry, 22 red zone carries, and 7 inside to 5 carries. But last week, he only saw 8 attempts on the ground, and Le'Veon Bell saw 6. And then in the passing game, Clyde still saw 4 targets, which was 12 touches. Now, they were absolutely destroying the Broncos, so that could just be part of it. I don't even think he really got a lot of playing time in the fourth quarter because they were just beating up on him so bad. But that's still definitely something to be a little bit cautious about, because you don't want him to just all of a sudden not get a ton of usage. If he didn't score that touchdown, he would not have had a good fantasy day at all. So that's a little bit nervous for me, but he's definitely only a tournament play. I would not touch him in cash this week. Tournament only option for me is Clyde. But I do think he is in a very good spot and definitely someone to attack. Josh Jacobs is up next, going against the Cleveland Browns. The line on this game is 53.5, and they are not favored, but it's a close game. I think they're 3-point underdogs right now, so that's really not anything too much to worry about. Pretty much an even game script. The Browns have allowed the 18th most points to opposing running backs this year. Josh Jacobs is only averaging 3.4 yards per carry this year. That's kind of been a little bit not so great this year, but still getting the red zone carries of 22, and then 4 inside to 5 carries is going to use both of those spots. When we go look at usage for him, averaging 21.2 carries per game and averaging 4 targets per game, which is 25.2 targets per game. That's definitely up there. And then when we go look at the games where they're playing from ahead, which in week 5 and week 1 are the games they've been mainly playing from ahead, he's getting ridiculous usage. So, or week 1 and 2, my bad. So Josh Jacobs, when you get to these close games they're playing from ahead, Josh Jacobs getting ridiculous usage. And I don't think it's definitely out of realm of possibility that they get out in front of Cleveland this game, because Cleveland is down some players. So Josh Jacobs, I mean, he's only 6,100 on DraftKings, could end up being the play of the week. I don't think a lot of people are going to be on him either. I don't think he's going to be super chalky. So definitely a great tournament play in my opinion. He's someone I want to go after. DeAndre Swift for Detroit going up against the Indianapolis Colts. They are not favorites in this game in a 50-point game total, but he's only 5,400 on DraftKings, and he's been really productive and slowly starting to see more usage. Averaging 5.29 yards per carry, which is really, really good. And he's still seen 5 inside to 5 carries in like the limited amount he's played. They love getting to inside the 5 and just pounding the ball. That's what they do, and they score pretty much every time. And he's also seen two end zone targets, so that's also very encouraging, and 1.52 points per touch. That's the most. I think that might be the most in the entire league. I know it was like a week or two ago. I don't know if it still is. In the last 2 weeks since the bye, we've seen DeAndre Swift see 14 and 9 carries and 4 and 5 targets. So that's definitely increased usage for DeAndre Swift from what we were seeing earlier in the year. And, I mean, he's still only 5,400. Yeah, the Colts are kind of a tough matchup, but they really haven't faced anybody like that great where I'm, like, really too worried about him. About them. I mean, they faced, like, Jacksonville, Cleveland, Cincinnati. Just not, like, elite offenses this year that their defense is shut down. And I'm not saying Detroit's an elite offense, but I'm also just not going to sit here and say they're, like, a shutdown defense that you need to avoid. So, I mean, it's a tough matchup. He's a tournament-only option, but at 5,400, you could do a lot worse, and with especially the upside he brings. Aaron Jones is going to be popular this week, assuming he plays. If Aaron Jones doesn't play, Jamal Williams doesn't play, again at only 6,000. But I think Aaron Jones should play this game. They're going against the Minnesota Vikings, whose defense has just been bad, allowing the 17th most points to opposing running backs. The line on this game is 53.5, and they are favored. When we go look at the yards per carry for Aaron Jones, he's averaging 5.19 yards per carry. He's got 16 red zone carries on the year, 8 inside of 5 carries, and 4 end zone targets. That's the most in the league for any running back. Even Alvin Kamara doesn't have that. So Aaron Jones getting a lot of passing game usage in the red zone is very encouraging. When we go look at the overall usage, he's averaging right now 15 carries per game and 4.66 targets per game, averaging 19.6 touches per game for Aaron Jones. In a game where it's 53.5 game total are favored, he should see a lot of usage. It should be a great play. We all know that Aaron Jones brings a ton of upside, so he's definitely someone I want some exposure to. And on the other side of that game, we have Dalvin Cook. He is going up against Green Bay Packers, who are just a team we've just pretty much spammed running backs against all year long. They've allowed the second most points to opposing running backs this year. Yeah, I know the Vikings aren't favored in this game, but I don't think they're going to get absolutely blown out like they did in week 1, because I think the Vikings have got a little bit better. I mean, they're still not good, but they've gotten a little bit better, and the Packers have gotten a little bit worse, so I don't think they're going to just destroy them this week. Averaging 5.3 yards per carry. He's getting 17 red zone. He's had 17 red zone carries and 6 inside to 5 carries. He's getting used down there. Definitely important. We've seen him average 18.4 touches per game and 3.2 targets per game for 21.6 touches per game. So he's definitely getting the usage. He's in a really, really good matchup in a really high-scoring game. So definitely someone I want to attack. I actually think Alvin Kamara might somehow be a little bit underowned for once this week. And if we're getting a low-owned Alvin Kamara, yeah, I'm going to want to attack that. Like, look, this is not the best spot for him. Like, the Chicago Bears, good running defense. They've allowed the 27th most points to opposing running backs this year. They're not a team you want to run the ball against. But the Saints are favored, and the line's only 43.5, so that's not great. But Alvin Kamara, like, we know he's not just a running back. Like, he's a pass catcher. When we go look at his usage, he's averaging 12.5 carries per game, but, like, 8 targets per game, almost 9 targets per game, averaging 21.33 touches per game. And he's just, like, a different player. He's just one of those players that, like, he can do anything on the field. No matchup's going to really destroy him. He's just that good. So Alvin Kamara is in an absolutely fantastic spot He's not in a fantastic spot this week. But he's just Alvin Kamara. And if we're going to get low-owned Alvin Kamara, I'm going to want to play him. Once I'm done talking about the last 3 running backs, I'll talk about more about strategy for running backs I'm going to be taking this week. So, but Alvin Kamara is still definitely in play. JaMychal Hasty, I kind of put on here as a tournament flyer, honestly, because who knows what's going on with that San Francisco backfield. Like, look, Raheem Mostert's out now. Jeff Wilson's out now. Tevin Coleman's out now. Breed gone. Jerick McKinnon didn't play last week. It was Jeff Wilson, so I don't know what's going to happen. And then JaMychal Hasty got some run when Jeff Wilson got hurt. So I don't really think anyone knows what's going to happen, but JaMychal Hasty's only $5,000 on DraftKings, and if he's going to beat a bell cow against Seattle, who's a solid run defense but a high-scoring game at 53.5, I want to get some of that on a team that runs the ball a ton. I think he's a solid option down there. I don't want to, like, he's definitely not a core play, but if you're playing a ton of lives and tournaments, I think he's fine. Then we're going to close out the Seattle running backs. Chris Carson's questionable as of now, and if he were to miss, that's going to make Carlos Hyde in play for me. But Chris Carson and Carlos Hyde going against San Francisco, which is been the best run defense for so far this year, but it is still a high-scoring game, and they are favored. Carson's getting usage inside of 5, getting 6 carries inside of 5 so far this year. When we go look at usage, he's averaging 12.33 carries per game and 4 targets per game to 16.33 touches per game. Now, in the last game, Carlos Hyde saw 15 carries and 4 targets, 19 touches in that game. It was used in the passing game a lot, so he was definitely involved, and he was definitely someone that I want to just, I think he's someone that if Chris Carson misses, he's pretty cheap. He's only like $5,500 on DraftKings. I want to get some exposure to him because he's going to be a bell cow in that offense more than likely, unless DJ Dallas really sneaks in there, who I think should sneak in there, but I think he's honestly better than Carlos Hyde. I think that guy's really good. So, but yeah, we'll see what happens. I mean, I think those are guys that are tournament flyers too. I don't think you need to go to Carlos Hyde in cash. I'd rather just get Gaskin, honestly, if Carson misses. So, now for strategy for running backs. This is a week where there's going to be a lot of chalky running backs, but there's a lot of great plays up top, so that also means there's going to be some low-owned guys because, you can only put at max 3 running backs in the lineup, so not everybody's going to get a ton of ownership. Like, I love Joe Mixon or Bernard, whichever one. I love Kareem Hunt, I love Jonathan Taylor, I love Derrick Henry, I love Josh Jacobs, I love Aaron Jones, I love Dalvin Cook, I still love Kamara. And then also, like, if Cook's out, Madison, if Jones is out, Jamal Williams. I love all those guys, but not all of them are going to get the ownership. Some of these guys are going to fall lower owned, and I think those are going to be like Jonathan Taylor, if Mixon plays Mixon. Like, those are the guys that are going to be lower owned, Josh Jacobs. And you're going to want to try to attack those guys. So pay attention to ownership projections if you have those, because those are really, really important this week, because I think there's a lot of really good running back plays, and if you're going to just get a super chalky, like if this is going to be the main core, Henry, Kareem Hunt, and let's just say Jonathan Taylor. Like, say those are the 3. Like, I don't think it's going to be Jonathan Taylor, but I'm just kind of spitting right now. If those are going to be the combination of 3 that a lot of people, everybody's going to have this week, why not pivot off of, like, Taylor to Josh Jacobs or pivot off Derrick Henry to Alvin Kamara? Like, there's just definitely pivots that you can make this week that are going to get you way off the field and could win you a tournament, because it's not out of the realm of possibility that any of these running backs are the highest scorer on the slate at all. So I think that's really important for this week. I mean, I'm going to want to jam in the expensive running backs into lineups. I think there's cheaper stacks. You've already watched my quarterback video. There's cheaper quarterbacks and cheaper stacks you can fit in, and then fit in the big running backs as well. So thank you guys so much for checking this out. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day, great rest of the week. Make sure to check out all my other videos for Thursday Night Football if you're watching this before Thursday. Thank you guys so much for checking this out, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day.